In this lesson, we'll learn about the temperature that can be associated with the colors that we see. All right, great. So I've got the Lesson 8 Begin file open in front of me here, but if the idea that there is a temperature that can be associated to various hues on the color wheel, if that idea is new to you, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk a little bit about that and really kind of understand which hues have which kind of a temperature related to them. So I've got here our subtractive color wheel in its gradiated form, and what we're looking at here, there are both warm and cool colors on this color wheel. Now, generally speaking, the cool colors on this color wheel are going to be sort of the blues, the greens, and even the purples, while the warmer colors are going to be our yellows, our oranges, and our reds right in here. So if I were to, say, divide this color wheel and basically kind of split these areas apart, we might draw that division right about there. Now, in doing that, you can see if I deselect that we have kind of this area that's around the ends of this line where there's greens on both sides of the line and there's purples really on both sides of the line. So that's kind of a gray area. Some of those colors just slowly transition between warm and cool. But generally speaking, you have your cool colors here on this side and you have your warm colors here on this side. Now, those are the way I like to remember which colors are which is oftentimes referred to just the general temperature of the climate that we experience each day. And, you know, when I think about that, let me go ahead and just show you an example here. So I'm going to open up some JPEGs to just kind of point this out to you. So this is a warm day outside. We can see that it's probably late summer, maybe early fall, but the temperature outside is probably, I would guess, just by looking at this scene, maybe somewhere in the high 50s, low 60s, maybe even mid 60s, somewhere around in there. So fairly moderate day in terms of temperature. You could probably go outside in a t-shirt and jeans and be just fine. But let's observe sort of the colors that are prevalent in this image. So if I were to come in here and grab the color picker from Photoshop, we'll just kind of come in and sample some of these. So I'm seeing here a lot of oranges, a lot of yellows. See if we can pull up some of those yellows. There we go, there's one. And we're seeing a lot of those greens that lean towards the warmer hues on our wheel. So you can see here these green right here, even though it's not really a very pure color, this would be considered more of a shade of the green. We see here there's a lot of yellow in that particular hue. So even when it comes to some of these browns, you can see that while they are shades and maybe even a little bit of a tint, you can see here that the root color is an orange color. So there are a lot of warm colors that really are prevalent in this scene. It's not until you start looking at things like the sky here and maybe even the reflection of the sky on this body of water and maybe even these mountains back here, which are picking up a lot of the color of the sky. It's not until you start looking at those elements that you start seeing some cooler hues in this scene. So obviously the environment in the foreground and midground area, there's a lot of warmer colors that are evident in this area. So let me go ahead and cancel out of this because I want to show you sort of a contrasting image here. This is an image where it's obviously very cold outside. If the snow doesn't give it away, I don't know what would. So let's go ahead and sample some of the colors in this scene and just observe kind of the temperature according to what we just looked at on our subtractive color wheel. Let me just sample over here and you'll start to see more of these blue colors that are prevalent in this image. In fact, most of the colors in this image you're going to find are going to be blues or even maybe some purples. Now, you may find that they're fairly desaturated, lower intensity or lower in purity versions of these colors, but again, just lots of cooler colors. Now, again, it's cold outside, so I'm remembering that I'm seeing lots of cool colors when it's cold outside. Obviously, there are going to be some exceptions to that rule, but if we jump back over here into my Illustrator file, you'll see here that in that winter image, most of our colors were right around in here. In that summer or fall image, most of our colors were in this area right at here, with a few over here in this green. So color definitely has a temperature, and it's important to understand that as an artist moving forward in your career. So let me go ahead and come over here and bring in sort of this new layer here. So oftentimes the temperature of a color is very relative to the colors you're comparing it to. So if we were to look over here to the right, you'll see that maybe we're selecting this color right here. Now this color is sort of a purple color, sort of maybe a dark violet color, and if I zoom in on that, you can see here that really the temperature of that relative to the other hues around it, you can see here that we are moving to the left, we're starting to gradually get warmer in terms of the hues. If we were to move to the right, we're going to be gradually getting cooler from this violet color. So oftentimes color temperature is a relative term relative to the other colors that we're comparing it to. Again, for example, in those images we just looked at, the sky in that summer or autumn image was a very cool hue when compared to the rest of the hues in the image. So a lot of time that the color temperature is a relative thing to think about or to examine. So with that said, let's talk about the active and passive nature of our colors. So the warmer colors here are often thought to be active colors, while the cooler colors are referred to as passive colors. Now, why this is important is that whenever you're combining these colors in, whether it's an illustration or whatever means you're using to apply these colors, oftentimes active colors, the warmer ones, tend to advance in space, while the passive colors, the cooler colors, are going to tend to recede in space. As you can see here, this is a very simple example with these two squares, but if you look at these, that yellowish orange tends to advance, while this blue tends to recede in space. So that is another important thing to consider when you're thinking about color temperature. Now, I want to show you one other image here that sort of illustrates that. So if I come over here, this particular file will actually be in your referenced files folder, and it's called nightscene.psd. This is an image that I illustrated for one of our courses here at Digital Tutors. But in this image, there is a nice combination of both, well, primarily cooler hues, but we also have some very specifically placed warmer hues in this image. So let's go ahead and examine those really quickly. I'll just zoom in here on our image, and you can see here this floating island has these kind of these exhaust ports or these engine ports here, as well as some of the lighting up here in the architecture on the top of the island, and even down in some spots down here on the lower portions of the island. There's very warm hues that are being used there, and if we kind of look over here, kind of on this dock portion of this this rock face, there are these little orange lights that are being mixed into the cooler hues, so as well as on the boat down here. Now, if we look at this composition as a whole, those areas where I've used those warmer colors in this image tend to advance toward us. So there's a little bit of contrast that is created there against the other hues in this image, the cooler hues. You have lots of blues and purples and grays that are cool in nature that tend to recede into the background, while these warmer colors are advancing towards us. So the temperature of your colors can affect how colors move in space, or how colors are perceived in space. All right, great. So in this lesson, we've taken a moment to understand how colors can have temperature associated with them and what that can mean for us as artists.